All right. Hi, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and get us started. Morgan here at Jotform. Welcome to How to Use Surveys and Email Marketing to Gain Key Insights. We are very excited to welcome you to today's session. Here at Jotform, we know a thing or two about surveys, and partnering with us today is Benchmark Email, a platform that knows a thing or two about connecting with people. Our topic today is how to take advantage of our tools and other tools that you might have at your disposal to learn key information from your customers, clients, or users. There are virtually limitless ways that you can use surveys to connect with your audience, whether you work with prospects or new customers or veteran users of your product. Regardless of your industry or offering, a strong sales cycle or a customer nurture campaign includes educational touch points where you can share more information about what it is that you have to offer. But sharing the wrong information at the wrong time could mean that important tips or tools get lost in the shuffle of everything else that's going on in your audience's daily work life. With surveys, the people that you're educating also have the opportunity to educate you about how often and what they'd like to hear from you, what they'd like to see from your company, and their opinions on how you're currently doing things, et cetera, et cetera. So today, my colleague, Ali Schratz, and Benchmark Email's Katie Culp, both the partner managers at their platforms, are going to be sharing their expertise on all things surveying, including how both platforms can facilitate connecting with prospects and customers. Since there are so many different ways that you can go with surveys, it can be a little bit overwhelming to know where to start or how to encourage participation, what to do once you've gotten feedback, and pretty much everything else in between those points. So Ali and Katie are here to guide you through it all. In just a moment, I'm going to turn things over to Ali to get us started, and then she will pass it over to Katie. After a bit of introductions from them about themselves and their platforms, I'm going to be coming back and I'll facilitate a discussion with Ali and Katie about survey tips, tricks, and best practices. Before I pass the mic over to Ali, though, I thought it would make sense to practice what we preach. So I'm launching a quick poll here where I would love to hear what you are most interested in hearing from us today. We have a number of questions on our agenda of questions to ask. So this will help guide us through that and give us some insight into what you're looking for today. So if you wouldn't mind just taking a second there, and I'll give that one more second. 1 or 2 more seconds here. All right, great. Great. So it looks like people interested in best practices and tips about when you might want to issue a survey most of all. So we'll work on prioritizing some of those questions. And I'm going to end the poll, and I will pass things over to Ali to get started.
Amazing. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. So hi, everyone. I'm Ali. I oversee partnerships at Jotform. Really working with 130 of our integration partners that allow you to work with email marketing platforms or data storage or payments and a number of other options to keep your data moving once you receive it through one of our forms and surveys. So question number one, really, why are we here? Why survey your customers? First of all, you want to learn what is working. What are, the products that they're loving, the messages that are resonating with them, the things that are bringing them to your doors virtually or in person, as well as coming back and potentially bringing people with them. Those are all the positive things. You also want to learn what maybe isn't working, what missed the mark, what could you perhaps improve upon, especially from folks who have maybe visited several times and seen, some issues going on, or folks who have even just come one time and are looking for maybe some improvements in a service or a product that you're offering. It's good to kind of get both sides of the spectrum. You're also looking to form personal connections so the customers feel encouraged to return. HubSpot did a survey last year and found that 74% of business comes from referrals. So you're, of course, looking for folks to remain happy and, of course, to bring their friends with them to your business, and to directly address any issues, whether that be customer service or a product, before they escalate, before they get out of control, so you can keep your folks happy. Next slide, please. So why look to us for a Jotform for surveys? Jotform's been in the business for over 15 years, has 15 million customers around the world, That number's probably actually gone up since I just said that number. And we have a really easy, robust platform for you to be able to do this very easily. So again, easy to create a form or a survey. We have over 400 templates for a range of industries and a range of different questions and different goals, different things you might be trying to achieve. Whether that's a number-based system, a star-based system, open-ended questions, there's really a lot of different options that you could find on our website. And these templates can all be linked to one of our base products called Jotform tables, which we'll go into a little bit later. But essentially, it's an option for you to, once you have distributed the survey, receive some results, an option to not have to then manually take all of that feedback and put it into, somewhere to categorize and action all of these different responses. It's an automatic transfer into a table, so you can easily categorize all of your feedback, figure out the best person, the best team to address that feedback, and keep it all streamlined, moving along, and everything gets answered. Next slide, please. So going into managing and actioning this data, ensuring that all data is collected in one place is crucial. You, of course, don't want, some things going into a table, some things going into a Post-it note, some things going into somebody's inbox. Keeping it all together, giving you the option to see everything all at once. And as we go into on this next bullet, looking for trends, looking for commonalities, figuring out how best to sort it and to address it is really crucial. The trends and commonalities is something really interesting where it could have been, a particular day where the website was down, or inclement weather for folks going into your brick and mortar. There's options to, or opportunities, I should say, to kind of see if there was maybe an ongoing issue, whether or not it was in your control, that might have led to some negative or potentially positive feedback in that day. And it's just helpful to know that once everything is in one place and you're able to categorize it effectively. So determining any backstories or root causes kind of goes into that as well. Could have been a customer service issue with a particular employee on that particular day. Could have been a particular product that maybe that batch wasn't up to standard. Lots of different opportunities to kind of see everything all at once and understand, how best to address this based on maybe some of the back factors. And then making a plan to address the feedback. This could be very overwhelming. There could be quite a few people who have a lot to say, both good and bad. And so just having a plan of attack of how you want to reach out to these customers, how you want to handle some of these root causes, and how to overall just address this feedback is important to put together. So we're here to kind of walk you through some steps to help make sure that happens. Next slide. Thank you. So tools to execute your plan. As I said, Jotform has a lot of different tools at its disposal to help, bring this together, really kind of get the survey out and ask all the questions, get the feedback that you're looking for to reach a particular goal. So a couple ways that we help to do this once you've used one of our templates to get this feedback. Automated approvals, an opportunity to sort of create this workflow where you have automatic actions that are happening. Once a survey comes in, for example, a manager, the person who's receiving the feedback, can route it to the appropriate teams, and automatically they'll have opportunities to figure out how to answer it. If it's positive feedback, it might be going to your email team to, thank them for the feedback, maybe provide a discount code as, a reward for providing that feedback. Is one of my favorite opportunities when I am filling out a survey. And it also could, if it's not so positive feedback, be going to your customer support team to get to the bottom of what happened and how to make it right with that particular customer. Again, automating that is just a helpful way to kind of keep everything streamlined and moving through your employees and through the teams that need to answer all of those questions. Another one that we think is really helpful is action buttons, which ties directly into Jotform tables. It allows you to, again, look at everything in one place and very easily send an email, whether that is to one of your colleagues to follow up on something, whether that's directly to the customer to get that immediate response, thanking them for their feedback, or again, addressing something that needs to be fixed. But just keeps everything really easy, really streamlined, and all, again, in one place. Very crucial. And from there, I'm actually going to turn this over to Katie, and she'll talk a little bit more about how benchmark email brings a lot of these tools to the surface.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Allie. So now that we have learned from Jotform how we can create these awesome surveys, collect this data, let's talk a little bit about ways we can actually deploy these surveys and what we can do with the data afterwards. So, all right, first of all, we have created this great survey, but what do we actually want to do with it now? So number one, let's identify how we can help our customer service team. First off, we can poll our customers after they interact with your support team to gauge how successful the interaction was. That can give you some valuable insights and maybe even catch someone before they're too angry. We can bring them back, help them with our team there. And then we'll also be able to follow up with our happy customers, maybe a request for a review or even a case study that we can use later on in our marketing materials. Now, one that I really like is we can use this to kind of streamline our onboarding process. So after we acquire a new customer, maybe we send them a quick survey to determine, what their goals are and what their level of expertise is. That can help your team prepare as well. And we'll be able to focus on the right aspects of the product or service to ensure that customer success and their retention. And then finally, we want to be sure we're using data to inform our product offering. So be sure to survey your customers to really understand if there's something missing from that offering and identify beta users to test a new product or service before we roll that out to a larger audience. All right, next slide. So how can we optimize this content? Number one, add proprietary data with polls and surveys. So with so much content in the digital landscape, it can be a little congested, and it is getting tougher and tougher to create original, attention-grabbing content. But polls and surveys are a super easy way to gather real-time data and support quotes for that content. So we'll be able to use polls to dig deeper into a subject line and can add visuals and charts and graphs to our content. We can also send a quick survey to influencers in our industry and quote them in an article. That's a perfect way to kind of expand our social reach. And then finally, an in-depth survey can be utilized for a research report. Now, in this scenario, be sure to gate these reports. This is a great way to capture top of funnel leads. So you'll be able to capture new contacts, collect valuable information while providing them content that they crave. All right, next up, we can talk about how we can ensure that this survey is actually getting to the right person. Now, the best survey is kind of useless without distribution, and email marketing is a great vehicle for reaching that audience. So marketing automation can make getting survey responses really, really simple. A few ways this can be accomplished. Number one, you could automatically add contacts to or even remove contacts from a specific list based on their actions. So have they been clicking links, opening emails? We can also automatically send an email when a contact subscribes or maybe fills out a form. And we could also schedule or send an email based around a specific date, maybe a super important one like a renewal date. Now, it is also important to include an email that survey link as part of that workflow or drip campaign. So if you do have any automated processes, definitely consider kind of adding that into it. Benchmark email, we do include simple automations in the free plan, which we can talk about more. But if you're looking for more complex workflow automations, you probably want to look at the pro plans for that. All right, so sending this email out is one thing, but the big test, how can we actually get contacts to open that email? That's always the goal. So number one, indicate who the sender is and include your business name so they're more familiar in your inbox. So for example, maybe the sender is Allie from Jotform. I also love personalizing. So you can use the contact's name or their business name to maybe give opens a boost there. Now, this is best when you're confident of your contact data and you have a well-maintained list. So keep that in mind. And then the last thing really for opens, a strong subject line is essential. You want to use fun and kind of snappy copy, but you don't want to be misleading in your subject line. No one likes a bait and switch there. For subject lines here at Benchmark Email, we love emojis. So maybe test that out, see if that could boost your open rates. And when you're unsure, quick, direct subject lines are the best. And then finally, with subject lines, test, test, test. We want to use the best performing one. So it's a good idea to compare maybe a couple against each other. All right, so if we have accomplished our first goal of getting those emails opened, how can we get contacts to take action and actually complete the survey? So first thing, let's focus only on the survey. In your email, a single call to action is going to get a better response. So instead of asking for multiple things like leave a review, check out our new product, take a survey, let's focus on one thing so they don't have to decide what they should do. Next up, I mentioned testing. I'll mention it again. A/B testing survey emails can be really, really helpful. Not only subject lines, but you could test other aspects like the content, maybe the button or a call to action. Now, Benchmark Email can help on this front. For our A/B testing, we send to a small number of contacts. We determine the winner of the test, and then we send the winning email to the rest of the list. So it can help kind of take the guesswork out of it for you. Now, not to toot our own horn, but if you're looking to implement what we talked about today, Benchmark Email is really an ideal vehicle for this, for not only sending surveys, but getting feedback from your audience. Now, our free plans, they are free up to 250 emails per month. And of course, we have paid options available. That's going to be if you're sending more or if you're looking for advanced automation features or landing pages. So just keep that in mind. All right.
All right. So, well, first of all, I want to apologize. Katie, I had a little bit of trouble with the slides while you were talking.
No worries.
Somebody asked if we would be able to share this presentation after, and yes, we can absolutely do that. So you can look at the slides along with the presentation. So we'll include that when we post this session. So just wanted to address that before we go into our discussion here. But, then next wanted to thank you both for that. I think there's so much valuable information in there. And I think we've already done a lot to address, the things that people most wanted to hear out of this session and a good basis for getting started with surveying. But I did just want to start by kind of readdressing that, what are the tips about how to get started and where's the best place to start? So Allie, I'm going to throw that one over to you to start. And Katie, if you want to weigh in on that, please feel free to jump in. But yeah, any tips and tricks about getting started?
Totally. Definitely wouldn't call it a trick. I think this is kind of the basis of getting started. It's really having a goal that you're going to be able to come back to and figure out if your survey was successful, if it answered the question that you were trying to get answered. So there's a few different ways to do this, depending on what you're looking to measure. So maybe that's the loyalty between your business and your customers. So we'll use the Net Promoter Score to do that. And you've certainly seen these before. It's a scale of 1 to 10, saying how satisfied were you with this particular, how likely are you to recommend this to somebody? And typically you're looking for a score of 9 to 10. Those are going to be your folks who are truly promoting. It's a Net Promoter Score. You want your promoters to be voicing their opinions. So a 9 to 10 is really the goal. A 7 to 8 is going to be considered a passive score. And then anything 6 and under is going to be what are called detractors. And those are the folks that you really want to dig in with a little bit more. Maybe you have a follow-up question for them to kind of better understand, what's standing in the way of them returning to your business, becoming a loyal customer, bringing friends of theirs with them. A couple of other options too, and of course on Jotform's website, we do have templates for Net Promoter Scores. We also have templates for the customer effort score. So that could be measuring the interaction between your customer and the business. So, on a scale of helpful to not so helpful, where did we land? I actually just answered a survey about this morning for a order that I had placed with West Elm, and they sent me a survey immediately asking, how helpful were we? Did we answer your questions? And so that's really giving you an opportunity to weigh in, this person was extremely helpful, they were super efficient, or none of my questions got answered, very unhelpful. And ideally, you'll be able to give a little bit more color into why that was and what the business can do about it. And ideally, too, they will get back in touch with you and figure out what happened. So the third piece, too, is a customer satisfaction score. Again, more templates for these, and you've probably seen these before. This is measuring the satisfaction between the customer and the business based on a purchase and interaction. And typically that looks like on a scale of poor to excellent. How satisfied were you with this interaction today? Again, these are all available through Jotform's website, very easily deployable through email. And as Katie has talked about as well, the timing of these is quite important, making sure that, especially when you're getting in touch with somebody about, a recent interaction, getting to them while it's still top of mind is important. Again, with this call this morning, that ironically happened to happen right before this call, or excuse me, before this presentation, I got the survey within 10 minutes of hanging up the phone. So it was still top of mind. I still knew how I felt about the interaction, which was excellent, and was able to voice that opinion in the survey while it was still relevant to me. Had they emailed me tomorrow, I might have completely forgotten that I even had that phone call.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just like Ali said, like once you know the goal and you have that outlined, everything's going to come together, because it's going to be easier to identify either what list this needs to be sent to, what automation it needs to be a part of, like she said, because our goal is to get the right content to the right person at the right time. So no matter how that happens, we do want to make sure to catch them at the right spot. Absolutely.
Yeah, and just to summarize that, I think starting backwards is really the key there, like both Ali and Katie said here. And I think that Ali, you touched on something that I think addressed one of the questions I had in that initial poll, which is like the best timing around when you want to do a survey. And I think that that immediacy and getting something in there while it's still fresh in people's mind is such a key way to ensure participation and ensure that you're getting accurate feedback as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think related, the next question is what are some tips on how you can get people to fill out surveys? So we started to address that a bit, but any other thoughts that you have there on getting people in the door for your surveys?
I think Katie touched on this earlier, and it was a brilliant point. Personalization is so key. I am personally, and I know a lot of people agree with this, when an email comes to you and it says, "Hi, Ali," much more likely to keep reading. Like it didn't come to, "Hey, XX, hey, customer." They came to, "Hi, Ali, I know who you are. I even know what you bought," because that might be in the in the email as well. And something that actually makes this quite easy to do is through Jotform, you can actually pre-fill some of those areas to make sure that it is going out to the correct person's name. It is potentially even identifying the exact products that they bought or the exact customer service representative that they spoke to. And just making it feel like they went that extra mile to truly care about that interaction or that particular purchase. Just really, really helps kind of increase your ability to get feedback out of somebody when it feels like it's more of a conversation.
Absolutely. And a better connection as well. I completely agree.
Yep.
Yeah, I know, Ali, in your slides, you talked about Jotform approvals and the action buttons, and those are both really great ways that you can pull in some of that data about what they purchased or what their name is, whatever you might want to do to personalize your messages. Along the lines of best practices, and Ali, I'll throw this one to you. And Katie, we're going to come to you next with a couple of questions about emails. So, Ali, do you have recommendations on the length of surveys and how to get people to fill out your survey based on how many questions you have for them?
Yeah, snappy is always the key. That doesn't mean that you can't have open-ended questions asking for additional context, additional feedback, but there is nothing that's a bigger turnoff than opening an email and seeing like 15 questions that you need to answer with open-ended length. I think keeping it really snappy. a crucial piece of that too, especially if it is a bit of a longer survey, maybe over 5 questions, is letting people know how long it's going to take. Hey, this will take less than 5 minutes. This will take less than 10 minutes. Hey, it has this many questions, setting people up for it. Something that Katie had talked about earlier was really misleading people with, hey, we're asking for feedback on this, and then catfishing them with, hey, it turns out we actually need a lot more feedback than we really asked you for.
Yes.
And it's just, those are such easy ways to turn people off of wanting to share their opinion and potentially turning them off of being return customers. So being honest, keeping it snappy, and letting people know exactly what you need from them. I need 5 minutes of your time. I want to ask for your satisfaction on this recent conversation. It's the easiest way to get feedback from somebody.
Yeah, I know I personally am so much more likely to click on a survey if it tells me this is just going to be 3 minutes. Like that's,
right.
if it has
3 questions and you're done.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think those are the only surveys that I actually fill out, actually.
Right. Or maybe you get a Starbucks gift card or something.
Yeah, right.
Those ones are nice also.
Do love free gifts. That is crucial.
Incentives, yes.
I would say incentives are another great way to get people to fill that out. All right, Katie. So I'm going to come to you with the next couple of questions about your, asking for your email expertise. So what are some of the ways that you can send surveys via email?
Yes. So great question. So if you are going to be sending by email, we have talked about how you can kind of identify your list, you can schedule, you can send, but we can also make that part of an automation. So depending on what that workflow is, we can easily introduce that survey in there. Now, outside of emails, because, people check their emails regularly, but they don't live in their inbox. So we do want to make sure that we can collect responses a variety of ways. So one tip is social media. Of course, we want to make sure that we are reaching people organically. So we do want to make sure that we can share that on social. That's a great way to get it out there. The other tip is that your team could actually add the survey link. Especially if it's for something a little bit broad that anyone could submit an answer to, maybe insert that survey link in their signature. That way, every single time an email goes out, they can let you know how satisfied they are with their business. On that same course, if your business is an application or a platform, you could also share that survey through a pop-up. So maybe when they log in, the first thing they see is, hey, rate us 1 to 10 or a quick 2-question survey. So wherever they are, let's try to catch them and get those responses as easily as we can.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's, really key. I'm personally learning so much from both of you as well. Kind of, again, continuing with the email, we talked about how to get more people to participate in surveys, but especially if you are sending it via email, the first step is to get them to open that email.
Yes.
So can you summarize some of your tips for getting people to open emails?
Absolutely. So subject line is so important. Some people don't put a lot of thought into it, but that is their first impression of you. So that can make or break if they're going to engage with your content. The key here really is we want to be creative, but we don't want to sound spammy. To be honest with you, if the subject line contains the word survey, you've probably lost half the battle. It's just not super exciting or engaging for someone to be like, yeah, let me take the time to go do this. So instead of like, help us improve, take this survey, maybe your expertise is required, or, we want to chat, just make it a little bit more conversational. And then, like we talked about, personalizing that subject line with their name, with their company name, with a product they bought. So it shows that we know them and we want to help them. And then, of course, like I've mentioned, and I will keep mentioning it, but test your emails. You might think you have a great subject line and maybe it doesn't resonate with your audience. So you always want to test your emails, subject lines in particular.
Yeah, I think that's great overall marketing advice, not just for surveys. All of everything you just said is just, really fantastic things to keep in mind anytime you send an email.
Yes. And, like Ali was saying, being upfront with them, and honestly, brevity is key. So in the email, that's where you can mention how long that's going to take them. Take 10 minutes, tell the truth. We don't want to, like we said, bait and switch. So you don't want to be like, take 3 minutes and do this. And it's a 20-question survey. No one's going to complete that. No one's going to be happy with it. So outline kind of what they're going to experience, what the process will look like in that email.
Yeah. Yeah. And in addition to the expertise from both of you, I know I personally have seen like endless studies about how much time people are willing to spend on surveys. So I really think, just if you take anything away from this session today, I think brevity is key. I think that is really the key. And again, there are so many studies that show people only want to spend up to 5 minutes or only want to answer 1 to 5 questions, and participation drops pretty quickly after those those thresholds. So definitely brevity, I think, is good to keep in mind. Katie, do you ever follow up with people that don't respond, or recommend following up with people who don't respond?
Yes. And I feel like this is kind of a step that a lot of people overlook. Like, they take the initial step to send out the survey and maybe they get some great responses, but we do want to make sure that we're surveying a large pool of people, that we're getting a good variety of responses, not just the people that always engage with us or that always respond or always in our inbox. So I do think it's a good idea to maybe follow up post survey, but do that based on engagement, because there might be some people, maybe your subject line was great, they opened it, but for some reason they did not take the action to click or complete the survey. So we can maybe define a couple different subgroups within that. So we can say, I actually want to follow up with people that opened but did not click. And maybe you want to follow up with people that didn't open at all. Let's try a new subject line, see if we can get that engagement going. So follow up is never a bad idea after that initial send. I would say wait at least a week, probably maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks, just to give people time. We don't want to kind of inundate their inbox. We don't want to be too aggressive. So give it a little bit of time, but follow up, absolutely.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I think that the time period between messaging can really be key. I know I had received a survey earlier this year, and like, they messaged me so often that it just made me that much more uninterested in
really
responding. So, you really have to think about that. That's very, absolutely significant.
And potentially, even if they do respond and you've spammed them enough times, like, you're not going to get the response that you were maybe going to get
a good one
when it's the one.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point, Allie. Great. So you guys have given a ton of information about, getting started and getting people to participate, getting people to open the email. I want to move to talking a little bit more about what you do once you have the data. So first, Allie, actually, Katie, let's go to you for this one first. How do you decide what feedback you want to listen to? You've sent this out to everybody, or, a certain subset of customers, obviously you're going to get a wide range of responses. Right. What do you listen to? What do you, what do you do with that?
So I think at the end of the day, it is important to kind of go back to what the overall goal of the survey was, because that's going to influence, your decision. So we do, of course, want to pay most attention to kind of our key players. So if our group is for, let's say, customers to gauge their happiness, maybe we want to concentrate more on decision makers or everyday users, rather than people that only log in, let's say, like once a month or interact with you more intermittently. So I think it's important to not only take into account the responses that you get, but who responded. So we can maybe kind of stack rank those in order of importance and prioritize things that way.
Yeah. And I think on that, categorizing all of that feedback is super crucial, just to make sure that you do maybe have different columns for super positive feedback, neutral feedback, negative feedback. And then, you're always going to get what we call junk, some folks who just fill out the survey just for literally no reason, maybe just for entertainment. And there isn't any actionable feedback to take from it. So having those categorizations there is super helpful. Even subcategorizing, saying, okay, this is positive feedback about a service, this is neutral feedback about a product, just to make sure that it does get routed to the correct team and that you are following up with them through relevant channels, is also super important.
Yeah, Allie, that's a great segue to an additional question. What do you have any recommendations about what to do with data and how to organize it, who to share it with, things along those lines?
I mean, I think it's important, I guess, once you have the categories to make sure that you are following up with them. I think people like to be heard. They want to know that, the action wasn't in vain, that it didn't go out into an inbox in space and you never looked at it and never acknowledged that you received anything or that you appreciate them or anything like that, because it's going to detract them from wanting to give you feedback in the future. So I think, again, making sure that you've categorized this feedback so you have different teams, different employees, folks on your team who are responsible for getting back to those folks, whether it was, hey, I love your business, I love this new product, you guys are crushing the game, thank you for being in my life, or hey, I have some thoughts on how you can improve. Having different teams to address those different pieces of feedback is really important. Obviously, that's going to vary team by team. There might be 2 people in your business, there might be 200. So really just, again, having all of the feedback in one place in correct categories so that you can kind of divvy up who's going to respond to what and when is really important.
Great. Yeah, that's super helpful. Well, we are almost out of time. I thought it would be nice to close out by all of us sharing maybe one example of a survey that we've really maybe not enjoyed receiving, but one that we were likely to fill out. I know, Allie, you've already talked about West Elm. Do you have another example that you would share?
I mean, it's not a specific one, but anyone who offers me a discount for my next purchase is absolutely winning my business.
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's a good way to go.
Yep.
Katie, what about you?
So I'll give a recent example that just happened yesterday. I had service just on my AC unit, just the annual stuff happens all the time. But afterwards, immediately, as soon as he left, I was sent a text message with a link for a quick survey. It was super easy, clicked the link, and it was grade of 5. So how did we do? So you would rate them, and then it was one other question, and that was it. And you had the opportunity to leave more feedback, but it literally took me less than 10 seconds, and I could do it right from my phone as soon as he walked out. So it was still top of mind. And I thought that was really a great way to get it done.
Yeah. Yeah. My favorite example is very similar. And this maybe says a lot about my life, but DoorDash,
Yes.
as soon as that order gets dropped
Oh,
off,
yeah.
That's, everyone's life.
Driver do. Yeah. I guess in the past couple of years, DoorDash isn't just my life, it's everybody's life.
That is true.
How did your delivery go? How is the food? And then again, also, like you just mentioned, Katie, if you want to share more, you have the option to share more, but it's on the phone, it's right there, it's immediate. It, makes it super easy to give feedback. So yeah, awesome. All right. Well, I think that is, that's going to cover it. Thank you both so much. Again, I learned a lot from you, and I think there were some great tips, again, not just for surveys, but general ideas about best practices for email and for getting in touch with people. So thank you so much. And to everybody on the line today, I want to thank you for attending. We do webinars almost once a week here at Jotform, or every other week. So hopefully we'll see you soon for the next one, and everybody enjoy the rest of your day. All right.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you